Hello everyone. Today we will be solving 9618 Winter 21 P41's question number 2. So this is a question about object-oriented programming and file handling. Okay, so the question says a program written using object-oriented programming stores pictures as objects. The program stores the dimensions of the picture, width and height, the color of the frame, example black, and a description of the picture, for example flowers. Okay, so the class has following attributes and methods. Okay, so these are the four attributes of the class picture, and these are all of the methods, and this is the constructor. Okay, so the constructor takes a picture, takes the picture description, frame color, height, and width as parameters and sets these to private attributes. Write the program code to declare the class picture and its constructor. Okay, so in my videos we use Python, so we're gonna have to do the attribute declarations as comments as well. Okay, so we can just get started with this. Okay, so we have to start by making the class, and we have to declare all the attributes as private, and all of them are takes all four values as parameters and sets them to private attributes. So all of them will be initialized to their parameter values. You don't have to do like separate initializations for any of the parameters. Okay, so subscription height width description width height color frame color. Okay, so we have the double underscore means that the attributes are private. So now we can just do the attribute declaration: string, integer, and string. Okay, so this is a string. Okay, so this is our A part. So for the B part, it says the four get methods return the associated attribute. For example, get description returns the description of the picture. Write the four get methods. So we have a get method for each of the attributes, so we can just do it. So we have to do it inside the class. All of the methods that are given over here inside this box basically are supposed to be inside the class. If they mention any other function or procedure throughout the question and you can see that it's not inside this table over here, then that means that it's not part of the class, it's going to be outside the class. Okay, but obviously the get methods are inside the class. Okay, so we are just gonna make the get method. Okay, so these are our four get methods. Okay, so with the C part, it says the method set description takes a new description as a parameter and writes this value to the appropriate attribute. So what this is doing is basically is that it's just gonna take a description as a parameter and just put it to description, add it to the value description. Okay, so it's just gonna be a string basically. So we can have any name. Basically, what we can do is we can just write details, for example. Okay, and we're gonna store it in the description attribute. Okay, so this is the entire class has been completed. Now they're going to ask us to do the other things. So हमारी class यहाँ पे complete हो गई. We have declared all the methods, the constructor and the get methods and the set methods. Okay. So in the D part it says write program code to declare an array of type picture with 100 elements. Okay, so we have to do this in the main program. So there are two ways we can do this. We can either initialize it as an empty object of picture, but for that we would have to, when we'll be adding to the array, we would have to use the index and we cannot append, because if we append it, then it's going to start with the index which is going to be after 100, because it's going to be an array of 100 elements, right? So what I can do right now is that I find it easier to just declare an empty array basically, and in the comment we can write that it's an array of type picture with 100 elements. Both methods are correct. Usually one of them is only written in the marking scheme, but personally I think there's nothing wrong with declaring it this way as well without initializing it. So we can just name it picture info, for example. And in the comment, I'm going to write that it is an array of type picture of 100 elements. Okay, now in the E part it says the text file pictures.txt stores the data for the pictures in the order, description, width, height, and color. For example, for the first picture in the text file, flowers is the description, 45 is the width, 50 is the height, and black is the frame color. So okay, so for each picture frame, there are going to be 4 lines for each of them, and they're in this order: okay, description, then width, then height, and then frame color. So the data read into the program from the text file is stored in an array of type picture. The main program and the function will need access to the array data. So because they have not mentioned that our array that we declared in the D part is supposed to be a global array, so जब हम लोग ये function लिखेंगे read data, तो उसके अंदर we'll pass it as a parameter, of course, because it's declared outside the function. Okay, so the function read data says that it opens the file, reads the data from the file, creates a new object of type picture for each picture, writes each object to the array, raises an exception if the file cannot be found, and counts and returns the number of pictures in the array. Okay, so this is basically, but there is one catch in this, that they haven't told how many pictures are there in the pictures.txt file. So we would have to use the sort of loop where we write ke while it's not end of file or while the file line is not empty basically, and tab tak hamara loop chalta rahega because they haven't told us how many pictures there are. Okay, so we are gonna declare, we can do it outside the main program. Okay, we're gonna pass the array as parameter. Okay, so first thing that we have to do is we have to open the file. Okay, we also need a count, तो हम count को 0 set कर देते हैं पहले. So that's the first thing we can do. Okay, then we have to open the file. This is exception handling. So file is equal to open. And now we have to copy the file path. This is my file. I'm gonna get the file path. Then write the file name and open it for read. So ये हमारी file open हो गई. It's saying that we have to read data and create a new object of like picture for each picture. Okay, so first my first line is the description. So what we are gonna do is that we are writing, okay, हमारी first line is description. So file dot read line dot script. So ये हमारी first line हो गई. अब we're gonna set a loop जिसके अंदर we're gonna write के up until, because description is the first line, so that is the variable that we can use to check if the file is empty or not. Okay, so we're gonna write the while description is not equal to empty. Okay, so this loop is gonna run until the end of file. So now we're gonna get the width, the height, and the frame color. Okay, so पहले हम लेंगे width, which is gonna be, I'll just copy this because we have to use it again and again. And one thing is that we have to make sure that हम लोग width और height को integer में convert करें, because जब file से हम line उठाते हैं तो वो string होती है, and width and height are integer variables. Okay, file dot readline dot strip, and last cheese is the frame color. Okay, so now we are gonna go to our array and we are gonna append the object of picture. इसके अंदर हमारी जाएगी description, height, width and color. Okay, एंड नाउ ऑफ कोर्स बिकॉज ये लूप वापस रन होगा तो हमें लूप के अंदर दोबारा डिस्क्रिप्शन को अच्छा नहीं पहले वील डू काउंट इज इक्वल टू काउंट प्लस 1. ओके एंड नाउ we will do we will get description again inside the loop basically because जब ये loop वापस check करेगा तो it's अब next description आ जाएगी उसके बाद अब ये for example imagine this is the first object. Okay, so the second description for example is polar bear for example. सही है तो अब वो पोलर बेयर को पहले इसके अंदर डालेगा लूप के अंदर और फिर वो जाके चेक करेगा कि डिस्क्रिप्शन में डिस्क्रिप्शन एम्प्टी तो नहीं है और फिर ऑब्वियसली उसी की विड्थ हाइट और कलर लेगा एंड इट्स गोना डू दिस इनसाइड द लूप बिकॉज आउटसाइड द लूप करेंगे तो लूप ही नहीं चलेगा. It's going to get the same description again and again, again and again, and the loop would never end. Okay, so अब हम अब फिर at one point फाइल जो है वो end हो जाएगी और description के अंदर empty like कुछ भी नहीं जाएगा. It's going to be an empty string. Okay, and फिर वो check करेगा कि description empty है तो it's going to be empty and then it's going to break the loop और हमारी फाइल ख़त्म हो जाएगी, हमारी array भी complete हो जाएगी. Okay, हमने count भी कर लिया और exception handling हमारी रह गई है. So अब हम करेंगे except print file not found. okay, और हमने फाइल क्लोज भी करनी थी फाइल डॉट क्लोज. तो ये हमारा हो गया है डी पार्ट. अब एफ पार्ट सॉरी ई पार्ट. नाउ द एफ पार्ट सेज the main program calls the function read data, write the main program. Okay. So, oh, we also had to return counts and returns the number of pictures in the array. तो हम लोगों ने return करनी है count. So हम लोग करेंगे return count and we also have to return the array because it's passed as a parameter and it's not a global array. तो जो भी changes हुए होंगे array के अंदर वो those are going to stay inside the function. सही है तो until and unless we return it back तो हमारा picture info जो array होगी वो change नहीं हुई होगी until and unless we return it. Okay, so we have to return that as well. Yeah. Okay, so for the f part it says so we have to call it and we will here. Okay, so this is done. Okay, so now we have to do the G part. Okay, so over here when we had to return it, तो because हम लोगों ने return किया था count and picture info को तो हम लोग obviously उसके अंदर उन variables के अंदर वापस लेंगे तो count जो है वो count में चला जाएगा and picture info जो है वो picture info में चली जाएगी. Okay, now it's saying G part, the main program needs to ask the user to input the requirements for a picture. The user will enter the color of the frame, the maximum width and the maximum height of the picture. The program will then search the array of pictures and output the picture description, the width and the height of any picture that meets the user's requirements. So the program should allow the user to input the color in any case, silver, silver or silver, and still output the correct results. Okay, so edit the main program to perform the described actions. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is take input from the user and they will enter their requirements for the picture. So वो color डालेगा, width डालेगा and height डालेगा, description नहीं डालेगा obviously. So yeah, and then we will search the array and output the picture description, the height and the width that matches the user's requirements. Okay, so one thing over here, well, because they've said that maximum width hogi and maximum height hogi, so basically any picture that is below their maximum width has a width that is below their maximum width and has a height that is below their maximum height is going to match our requirements, which I've already also written as a note over here. Okay, width and height can be less than the user's requirements, but the color should be the same basically. Okay, so the program will then search the array of pictures and output the picture description, the width, the height in pictures. Okay, तो ये output करेगा. And okay, so it's saying कि case sensitive नहीं होगा. तो if they've written silver तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि हम reject कर देंगे उसको. तो we have to do case sensitivity को हमने ignore करना है यहाँ पर. So we can start writing G part over here. So this requires a bit of brain power. So we have to थोड़ा ध्यान से करना है इसको. Okay. So they've said that we have to do this in the main program. So what we are going to do here is that first thing we have to take the input. Okay, तो पहले हम color पूछेंगे. So we're going to ask color input, please enter frame color. Okay, फिर हम input और फिर okay, what they've said over color में over here is that the user should input the color in any case. तो what we can do is कि बजाय कि हम लोग एक loop लगाएं जिसके अंदर वो हर case को हम cater करें, तो we can just convert whatever the user's input is into either an uppercase or a lowercase, सही, and we'll do the same for जब हम file से compare कर रहे होंगे. So for now what I'm gonna do is कि I'm gonna convert the user's input into lower case. Okay, so over here then we're gonna input the width. Okay, the width is an integer value, so we have to make sure that we're declaring it as we're inputting it as an integer. So please enter maximum width of the frame, and now we need the height. Yeah, so int input, please enter maximum width height of the. अच्छा, हमारा कलर इनपुट हो गया, width इनपुट हो गई and height इनपुट हो गई. Now what we're gonna do is that we have to check in the array कि कौन सा पिक्चर जो है जो हमारी array के अंदर है वो मैच करती है इसके साथ. तो for अब we have to use the index obviously, so we're gonna declare an index which is gonna be 0. ठीक है, अब हम लोग एक loop लगाएंगे कि index should be less than, obviously ये नहीं हो सकता, ये हो सकता है कि for example none of the pictures match what the user is saying. तो हमारा loop तब end होगा जब तक index जो है does not sort of exceed the length of the array picture info basically. Okay, so what we can do is over here is that while index is less than length of picture info, because they've told us, I think, that we don't have to just output of any picture that meets the user requirement, so we have to search the whole array anyways. अगर उन्होंने हमें कहा होता कि we just need one picture that matches the user requirements, तो फिर हम लोग loop को differently deal करते कि जब वो एक picture output कर देगा तो आप loop end कर दो. But now what they're saying is कि हम लोगों ने पूरी array के अंदर search करना है. It's gonna go until the end of the array and search कि कोई picture है which matches the user requirement, and any picture that matches the user requirements is gonna be output. तो इसलिए हमारा जो लूप होगा इट्स गोना रन अंटिल द लेंथ ऑफ पिक्चर एरे. ओके, एंड हमने लेस देन इसलिए लिखा है बिकॉज हमारा पाइथन में इंडेक्स स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम 0. अब लेंथ, अब फॉर एग्जांपल पिक्चर इन्फो में लेट्स से 10 एलिमेंट्स है तो इसका इंडेक्स होगा 0 से 9 तक. बट व्हेन वी से लेंथ ऑफ पिक्चर इन्फो तो वो 10 आएगी obviously, okay, because there it's giving the length because it has 10 elements in that case. But because हमारा index 0 से 9 तक होगा तो इसलिए हमारी condition इस वक्त index is less than length of picture info है, तो that means कि वो 9 तक चलेगा for example. सही है. Now what we're gonna do is कि if we're first gonna check कि जो frame color है if it's equal to the first we're gonna check the color. Okay, because color same होगा तो फिर हम width height पे जाएंगे ना, color तो change नहीं हो सकता. तो what we're gonna do is कि we're gonna write कि if picture info के index पे जाओ and get the frame color. I think that was the name of the, no, it was get color. Okay, if that is equal to color, अब over here on the safer side what we can do is that इसको हम lower में करते, but we have to do it separately, I think. So first I think what we can do is we can get the picture color is equal to picture info के index dot get color and convert this into lower. just in case it's not in lowercase. Oh, sorry. And convert this into, okay. Now we're gonna compare if picture color is equal to the color जो user ने input किया था, then it's gonna check for the width and the height. So if picture info के index पे जाओ and उसकी get width is less than the width जो user ने input की है, and अगर उसकी height, इसी को हम copy कर लेते हैं, is less than the height जो user ने input की है, तो फिर हम प्रिंट करेंगे उसकी डिस्क्रिप्शन, उसकी विड्थ एंड उसकी हाइट. ओके, सो अब हम लोग प्रिंट करेंगे उसकी डिस्क्रिप्शन. ओके, स्पेस दे देते हैं बीच में, एंड उसकी विड्थ एंड उसकी हाइट. ठीक है, तो ये प्रिंट हो जाएगा. एंड फिर वो इफ़ कंडीशन से बाहर जाएगा एंड इट्स गोना डू इंडेक्स इज इक्वल टू इंडेक्स प्लस 1. सही है. तो अब फॉर एग्जांपल वो जीरो इंडेक्स पे गया, जब इंडेक्स जीरो था इट्स गोना एंटर द लूप. सही है. फिर इट्स गोना चेक कि इट्स गोना गेट द कलर ऑफ द पिक्चर, उसको लोअर में कन्वर्ट कर देगा. आई जस्ट डिड इन केस के फॉर एग्जांपल उन्होंने यहाँ पे हमें शो किया था कि फ्लावर्स का फर्स्ट लेटर फॉर एग्जांपल वो था अपर केस था, तो मैंने उसको भी इन केस लोअर केस में कन्वर्ट करके पिक्चर कलर में डाल दिया ताकि हमारी कंफ्यूजन ना हो, बिकॉज हमने इसको भी लोअर में कन्वर्ट किया था, इसको भी हमने लोअर में कन्वर्ट किया था. सही है. अब इसके लिए चेक पिक्चर कलर इज इक्वल टू कलर और नॉट. देन इसके लिए चेक विड्थ कम होनी चाहिए, उसी पिक्चर की विड्थ कम है और उसी पिक्चर की हाइट कम है फ्रॉम द मैक्सिमम विड्थ एंड हाइट दैट द यूजर हैज इनपुट. एंड देन इफ ऑल थ्री कंडीशंस आर मेट देन इट्स गोना प्रिंट इट. सो अब हमारे इंडेक्स में, और फिर हमने इंडेक्स को इंक्रीमेंट कर दिया एंड दिस इज गोना रन अंटिल इंडेक्स इज लाइक array ख़त्म नहीं हो जाती बेसिकली. सो दिस इज आवर ई पार्ट, सॉरी जी पार्ट. ओके, अब एज पार्ट में it says test your program by inputting the following search criteria: black 100 silver 25 and then we have to check. Okay, so it asks please enter the frame color, so it had black in uppercase, 100. Yes, so there's an error. Oh, I didn't add the bracket because it's a method, so we need to make sure कि हम bracket add करें. So let's try again. Okay, so I have cross-checked from the marking scheme as well, and this is the output that we were supposed to be getting. Okay, and now we have to check for the other one, which was silver 25. So silver 25. Okay, so it did not output anything. Okay, that means that probably there's no picture that matches, and I've checked from the marking scheme and it's the same. There should be no output. Okay, so this does it for our question. If you guys have any questions, you can always ask in the comments, and please do like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you.